Hey guys, welcome back to Results Junkies podcast. We are live from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My 49th state, Paul. One more to go.
In a balmy 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Middle of the day.
Yeah, I still question saying yes to you when you said let's go to Sioux Falls in February. But before we get too deep, I also want to introduce our guest this week, Matt Paulson from MarketBeat. Matt, thank you for having us in Sioux Falls.
You know, you guys could have been here a month and a half ago when it was negative 20 degrees out and enjoyed that too.
I appreciate you giving us positive 20 degrees. That's very nice of you. Thank you.
You know, we roll out the red carpet for our guests here in Sioux Falls.
And we're going to, later in the episode, we'll talk about this, where we're recording, but this is your office. Well, part of the office, but we found a little speakeasy in the back.
We did.
The door mechanism on this speakeasy is probably worth more than most startups at the seed stage right now.
Yeah, it's a giant painting. You open it, and then here you are in a speakeasy.
I may or may not have a video that I'll be posting later.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you build a new office and the boss says, "I want a speakeasy in the office," and nobody has the guts to say no.
Yeah. So we did.
Life lessons.
We did when we were doing this tour. I was talking to Will, and he was like, and then like the office just kept going. And I said to Will, I said, so I imagine when you were talking to the designer and the architect, and they asked you questions, all you said was yes. Like there was just probably no pushback at all. Just like yes, yes. You know,
I think having toured the office, I could definitely see that, and I could say to the cold factor, Paul knows I have a travel podcast and we have a Slack community, and when Paul told me we were coming to Sioux Falls, there's a group in the Slack community that's very dedicated to travel wear, and I immediately started a thread that said I need a new winter jacket. Thankfully, the weather didn't get there for this, so now I'm waiting for the sales to come. But when you talk about SEO, like the moment I said that anywhere near my phone, Instagram and Facebook served me up ads for 3 weeks straight of every possible winter coat I could buy to come to Sioux Falls.
Well, I think if you start talking about stocks, I'm sure he'll hit you up.
I think the real play is to start like writing about rare whiskeys and then see if Facebook will try to sell you one that you can't otherwise get.
Yeah. Well, just to tease it a little bit here. I mean, I've been here like probably 5 or 6 times. I feel like this is your first time here. Mm-hmm. And it's just been fascinating. Obviously, we'll talk about it as we go through here, but it has been fascinating to not only watch it kind of change every time I come back, but also to just kind of watch how much MarketBeat's been growing as well. I didn't know you before I drove up in an RV like 5 years ago or 6 years ago or something like that. Yeah, first time I ever rolled in here with my RV, Will Bushy, who was on your team now, Will was like, yeah, just park it in front of this hotel. And I was like, behind the Wienermobile, like the Oscar one. And he was like, yeah, just put it right there. And so sure enough, I've got a photo somewhere of me, an Airstream, my wife, my dog, and the Wienermobile.
And you sent that to me because you were trying to remind me of being here for the tour stop back then. and somehow I missed that tour stop.
Yeah.
So it's my first time here. What I saw when we got here was... And I guess I shouldn't be surprised anymore, but it reemphasized this belief that you can start a company anywhere, especially with where technology is today. Mm-hmm. And so the very first thing we did, we got off the plane, Will picked us up, we drove straight to Startup Sioux Falls. Well, sorry, we did drop your stuff off at an incredible crash pad that you were staying at, but that's a story for a different
story. Yeah.
And then we jumped right into, hey, how are you doing? You guys sit over there, and we've got pitches for you. Mm-hmm. And you've seen the growth of that ecosystem since you've been here a number of times, and it was probably 2017.
Yeah,
when you were with the tour stop. I'd love to hear you talk about what you see in terms of the growth of the ecosystem from the outside, and then we can talk to Matt a little bit more about what he's seen being here through that time period.
Well, I mean, look, I think so in some ways, Sioux Falls is no different than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. I think it's got people with ambition, people that want to, be their own boss, people that want to, be entrepreneurs and stuff like that. On the flip side, one of the challenges is some of the challenges are the same too, is that, some of the people that might be guiding them aren't necessarily giving them that sense of urgency to go do something. Like they're sort of rewarding conversation and questions more than, actual tests and experiments. So, that being said, though, I think I was when we first came in, I was talking to Will about this, and I said, it's interesting to watch how much the city's changed. Yeah. And I was saying to Will, I said, if you live here, it's probably a gradual change every few months, and another building pops up. But I probably come every 18 months or something like that. And it's interesting. To me, it just looks like big steps forward. there's more infrastructure now. Like, there's more resources. Like the first time I came, I don't think there was a startup Sioux Falls. I think it was over at Zeal.
Yep.
It was and that felt like a 20-minute drive away.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now startup Sioux Falls exists, and it's like in the downtown, essentially the downtown corridor. It's got a co-working space, and it's, and you guys have grown a lot. So I don't know. I mean, I think I would say I would bet money that the economic footprint of startups in Sioux Falls have increased on the whole.
Yeah.
But, some of the challenges still remain. Like I'm going to talk about Matt like he's not here. Like, you were in a lot of those office hours we were in, and I would run out of fingers if I counted the number of times people said, I want to be like Matt, when I grow up and I have enough revenue to like give to the things I want to give or whatever. And I'd have to say, like, you're looking at Matt now,
Yeah.
not when he started, and so like, you got to like put that aside. But I don't know, it's like that sort of startup culture that somehow like glorified this overnight success. And I think, Matt, you would say that like MarketBeat's overnight success was like a 20-year overnight or a 10-year overnight.
Yeah, I started the business in 2007-ish. So it's, 17 years into it. Like, yeah, now it looks very fabulous and great and giving money to all sorts of things and have a great office and a great team. But like, this is like the end of the rainbow after the long slog of building a business.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think when you talk about that effect, it's a little bit of that, call it that Waterloo effect of when we were up there, and you had RIM and BlackBerry was a part of that culture, and you had founders that wanted to support the ecosystem that stayed in that area. And I think Matt, I think that's coming here for the first time for me. What I see walking in is you talking about how you work with the city to put the building in place, and then we saw. Gosh, I think we had 7 companies that pitched last night. But if I remember correctly, you told me that the cohort was much bigger than 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they had over 20 applicants. And honestly, like at first I said, I don't know if this is a great idea because I don't know if the companies exist that like would even participate. And thankfully, Don did it anyway, and they got 20 applicants.
Well, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would say having seen the 7 companies that I saw last night, I think that the thing that was unique to, maybe not completely unique to Sioux Falls, but Paul, from many of the tour stops that we went to, all 7 that we saw were businesses that could survive anywhere in the U.S., where some of the cities that we've gone to, that wasn't always the case. They were building a business that was going to be the best whatever in St. Louis. But I think the thing that I saw, is the ecosystem that you guys have helped create. These folks are trying to build businesses that could address Sioux Falls, Maine, Las Vegas, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big credit to Don and Scott who have been there, done that, and got the T-shirt and really know what mistakes to avoid. And I think a lot of the like normal issues that you would see at a pitch competition of people choosing too small of a market or building a solution in search of a problem, like they've weeded those out before they got to us.
Yeah.
I think I will say that I was saying this to Don over dinner last night, is that, accelerators are tough because if you look at them through the lens of a venture capitalist or whatever, they all are horrible, because then you're like, there's nothing, whatever. Like you just grumble because nothing's good enough ever. But actually, if you look at accelerators as sort of the modern day business school particularly for businesses that don't necessarily have to be capital intensive, I think they're sort of a necessary part of any community. Like in other words, when you go to school and you take a business class, they still, for better or for worse, are teaching case studies from large companies, and I'm sure that's useful for certain jobs and stuff like that. But, like the reality is that for an early stage company, your business plan, I don't think you probably started out with a business plan.
No. I still don't have one.
You still don't have one? Yeah.
You should probably get one of those.
Yeah.
You think so, huh?
Should we talk about what MarketBeat is? How do you want to tie it together?
So right before that, well, first off, too, just as a quick segue, if you're trying to track us down, he is at Paulson on all the social media places. Matt is a great Twitter follow, and I still have like 15 messages I need to catch up on. He's got a much quicker trigger figure than me, but at Matt Paulson SD for South Dakota, and I am at Pizza in Motion on all those social media places. Yeah, right before we talk about MarketBeat, I want to tie back on, and whether you use the word accelerator or studio or whatever it is, I think having not been here, before myself, what do you see, like, with all the progress that's been made and with the companies that we saw last night and this morning, and they were great office hours, they asked good questions, they challenged themselves. What do you think's next for the ecosystem in Sioux Falls? What do you think it needs, or what do you think is next?
I think there are some missing pieces in the capital stack, and it's certainly gotten better. I think all the way from like the first 25K test out your idea check to the, we're good up to kind of a Series A of like, I can raise $5 million for somebody. That's a great startup. Beyond that, we got nothing. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not a problem because like we're building regional connections to Series B firms and later and trying to figure that out. Our friend Tom over at the Enterprise Institute is doing what's called the Dakota Seed Fund. That will be that first 25K check. And like our state does some kind of programs for early stage businesses, but not many because we don't have a state income tax and just don't really have the money to do that. So we got a grant to kind of get that going. I think you'll be able to get up to 75K, 25K, three times if you keep your milestone. So I'm really excited to see that come together. I would love to see Don and Scott keep doing their tech accelerator. Startup Sioux Falls has really shifted more towards being, okay, we're going to serve the businesses that are here and not necessarily create something for businesses that don't exist. So the problem with the Zero Center back in the day is it only served tech businesses, but there weren't enough tech businesses in town that were startups at any given time to support a building of that size. So it didn't really work. And then about 2017-ish, the founders kind of took over the startup ecosystem from the economic development people. And big thanks to our mayor, Paulson for kind of starting that by loading up the Zeo board with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And then, took it over, and I went rogue and started Startup Sioux Falls, and we hired Brian, and then we merged them together, and then we've persuaded all the economic development people we should move downtown, and got the city to give us a free building, raised a bunch of money to remodel the building, got rid of the old building, gave it to the tech school, and it's this whole thing. But it only happened because the founders kind of took over,
right?
And we haven't given up control.
Amazing what entrepreneurs can do when they put their minds to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, but it also starts with leadership too, because Paul Tenhaken, I've only met him once on one of the visits I had here, but he used to be an entrepreneur. He started and sold a business here.
Yeah. No, it was a successful digital marketing agency called ClickRain.
Yeah.
They grew to 10 million for an agency. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to Paul's earlier comment about MarketBeat, I think the thing that we consistently see when we go to various towns across the country is there's sometimes a little bit of a disbelief that you can build a big business somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think, what you've been able to build with MarketBeat here is a great example, I think, a blueprint for how folks can do that in their community, that you don't always have to find your way to the big city, and you don't always have to find the big check. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that journey, and then I know we have some questions for you as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, nowadays it's easier than ever because, you can connect to AWS from anywhere.
Right.
It's not like the internet connection only works in San Francisco. So,
What?
When I started, it was really hard because, there was no community here. If there were resources, I didn't know how to access them.
Yeah.
Definitely nobody was offering me a check. And I just happened to come along a podcast called Internet Business Mastery that kind of had a template of, this is the type of business you can start online and make money. And it's like, okay, I'm going to do that. And by the grace of God, I found that. But nowadays, there's startups who follow sitting here. There's all sorts of capital. There's communities online, hundreds of them that you can join that will kind of teach you what to do. But really, the hard thing is still having the fortitude to stick with it for a long time and doing the work and keep doing the work when it's really hard and keep doing the work when there's no traction. And that's what's where we are today.
I want you to have a second to talk about what MarketBeat is, but I do have a question real fast. A couple of weeks ago, you tweeted something. I remember this because it popped up on my feed on a Sunday night. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember this, but you said something on a Sunday night, I'd say within the last month. You said something like, it's going to be a tough week ahead of me. I got a lot to do, and I do my best with my back up against the wall.
Yes.
Obviously I'm putting you on the spot, but what was that about? As much as you can share. I'm putting you on the spot now.
Yeah. We had an employee that left for another job, and it's part of running a business. I had to deal with that. I had some deals and we were negotiating, just lots of different things like that all in a week. And it's like, okay, I'm getting my butt kicked. Let's go. And that really is when I do my best work.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because when you start to talk about your business here in a minute, I think it's going to become really apparent to people because it just, I don't know everything you were feeling in that moment, but one of the benefits of having a small team is certainly the efficiency and the revenue per head count is super high. But one of the disadvantages is probably like any departure can hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's anyway. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit. Love to help our audience understand what MarketBeat does. To Paul's point, let's talk about headcount and what you guys are working to accomplish on a daily basis.
Absolutely. So MarketBeat is a financial media business. We publish news and information about the stock market through our website, but primarily through email. So we have a bunch of different newsletters about different stock market strategies and stuff like that. And then we generate money through premium subscriptions, which is probably 20-ish% of the revenue, and then advertising, which is the remaining 80%. And never set out to build an advertising business, but that's where we landed. And one thing that's unique about MarketBeat versus kind of all of the other kind of newsletter businesses that have popped up in the last few years is we are almost entirely based on performance advertising versus brand advertising. And, that's just a very unique thing. And I think it's really good for us because we know, like, for a fact when we're creating value for an advertiser, because when somebody buys, there will be a post back from their ad server to our ad server saying, yep, you sold this thing. Here's your $150. And you know exactly how many of them you sold and like whether or not you're providing value, which really tells us gives us really good intel on like what type of ads we should run and, who our best advertisers are going to be. And, on the other side, there are all these new newsletters that are doing brand advertising out there. And you don't always know if the advertising works or not, or if you're actually providing value. And I think that is... It's a little bit dangerous of a game because like as long as like the advertising money is flowing, it's fantastic. But like, if there's a recession and the tide goes out, like if you can't prove you're providing value, like you're going to be the first person that gets cut.
Right.
Yeah. Awareness budgets go pretty quickly when the economy turns down.
Right. Well, and I think, in full disclosure, neither of us have any business interests in it. You were fully bootstrapped.
Isn't that a shame?
It is a shame.
Yeah.
But I think one of the interesting things that, I think one of the interesting things is that Matt is very open about, a lot of stuff on his Twitter account, everything from like, revenue to performance. I mean, like all his ideas he talks about publicly, which I think is refreshing because there's a lot of like pundits out there that just sort of,
Pontificate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I think like one of the things that he just said there, for example, just in the last few minutes that I think is non-obvious is that he said something like 80% of their revenue is not the SaaS part of the business. You guys have a free version, you have a $39 a month version, mm-hmm. but he said that was 20% of the revenue. And that right there is where it gets really interesting is that like what he's alluding to when he says no brand advertising, he's effectively talking about affiliate marketing, mm-hmm. which I think if you just pick a random subset of Twitter and you start asking about affiliate marketing, you either get a bunch of jokers or you get a bunch of people that say, oh, that's the worst thing in the world. But like, he seems like a normal dude, and like he's making money, he's creating jobs. I don't know. Like, anyway, the thing I find really fascinating though is that like, he thinks about email publicly and openly in a different way. And I think that there's probably things that he takes for granted mm-hmm. that I wish more founders in random places around the country would just embrace. Like when you walk into this office, there's a ticker on the front door that shows the number of emails on the list. And he didn't make us sign an NDA. He openly talks about it. His employees see it when they walk in.
Yep.
And like you were talking about the dashboard. These are like such simple ideas that he probably takes for granted. But like, I think they're ideas that more entrepreneurs should embrace. Like not a single pitch in any city we've ever been to has ever said, this is the top metric for me to watch.
Well, yeah, and it's a big downside for founders who don't have that sort of laser focus. And you mentioned it. This build in public philosophy is not practiced by a lot of entrepreneurs. And you mentioned the ticker as we walked in, and there was a second ticker to the left too. And they told us what it was, but I
think it was website visits today.
Yeah, website visits. Yeah, website visits today. I don't remember the number, but it was like 180,000 or something. Mm-hmm. But like so there's substantial traffic there. And then after we finished our office tour, we sat down for lunch, and Paul was sitting across from me. And as I looked up over his shoulder, there was a 65-inch flat screen that was rotating messages. Mm-hmm. But what hit me was the first message that I saw was a page, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about it. And I think it was 4 columns, mm-hmm. and at the top it said MarketBeat Q1 goals.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I really like about building in public is, and just being very public about our goals and our numbers, is that, and our strategy, frankly, is that if everyone else knows all my secrets and does them, like that will raise the bar and make me work harder to like figure out that next level of secret marketer ninja stuff. So like it makes the game harder for me in a good way. But the other thing is that people will challenge me on my ideas sometimes in like ways that I haven't thought about. And when you're, me running one of the largest financial newsletters online, and you're supposedly the expert, and you're like at an event, and people are fawning over you and want to talk about your business, and you don't always get feedback or like people challenging your ideas, and you definitely get that on Twitter/X. Like you post stuff like all of the people that like are in that new newsletter space follow me and will like either DM me like, hey, have you thought about this, or like, no, brand advertising is great for this reason. It's a real thing. Like you should go try it. And I love it when people, kind of challenge like in a nice way, but like say, well, maybe you're wrong for this. And then, I think about it like, well, maybe I'm right, but maybe I'm wrong. And then it gives me more things to think about, because they're just like, there's no magazine I can go read that's like, here's how to grow your financial news business from 4 million subscribers to 8. Like that doesn't exist.
Right.
So like the more I can have my ideas out there, the more that they can kind of get battle tested and make my business better.
But what do you say to somebody that says, but Matt, what if I miss my goals? What do you say? Like if I said to you like, oh man, like that's cool. I love it. Like I love the idea of like forcing the bar higher for me. I love it. But God, what if I say that I want to make, I don't know, $100,000 this year and I don't? What do you say to me?
We're going to miss like half of our Q1 goals. That's because some of them have changed, and like some of them we just haven't made enough progress on. So like, missing goals is part of the game. And
you tweeted something the other day that I thought you retweeted your old tweet. So there was this old tweet, I forget the date of it, but you said, I woke up and we crossed 75,000 emails. Cool.
Yeah.
And then you retweeted it and you're like, we crossed 4 million user emails today. How cool.
Yeah.
And then we walked in the office and it was like almost 4.5 million.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh God, that was like 30 days ago you tweeted that.
I'm almost tempted to stop sharing our subscriber count, because it is growing so fast that like, it's going to get hard to believe at some point that it is growing that fast. But we also spent $1.2 million on advertising last month with the sole purpose of growing our email list.
Yeah.
So
when you talk about missing goals, I think this is an unspoken part of building a great company. And where I think about it is that, so I've always been a big fan of culture. And what I mean by that is that if you establish the right culture and you hire the right people and you build the model, when they miss goals, like you're talking about, when you're missing your Q1 goals, they can sit there and they can analyze why they missed those goals and figure out how to repurpose themselves. Because to your point, if you could achieve every goal you laid out every quarter, you're probably not pushing your company hard enough.
Yep.
And so I think it's establishing that culture inside your company that it's okay to fail. We have to understand the reason.
Yeah. I mean, for us, a couple of things have been really helpful, like especially on our dev team, is like, there's always code that you can make better and improve and, fix whatever edge case bug there is or make some UI a little bit better. So if they kind of have some North Star goals that like, hey, I don't really care what you do, but you do have to get these things done. That's really helpful for us. And then, that's the main thing. And, I think we also have to remember goals are kind of a snapshot of like, this is what we think our future direction is on the date that we set the goals. And like, that future direction can change. Like we started a consulting agreement with a new SEO agency in January or November, December, I don't know when. And it's gone really well. So it's like, okay, let's keep, forget some of this other stuff. Let's keep doubling down on this, because like the advice we're getting is really good. We're seeing the results. Like let's just keep pushing on that pedal at the expense of some other things that were like on the goals list. But like, if we don't do it, it's okay.
Yeah.
But
what do you, so like, I'm not pretending to be inside your head, but I imagine that, with email being a primary part of your business and with 80% of your revenue not being the SaaS revenue that everybody thinks it is, do you find yourself looking at other SaaS businesses either inside the Sioux Falls or elsewhere? And like, I guess let me just throw a broad question out there and see what you say. What do you wish more SaaS businesses did with their email lists? Is there anything? Like, is there something that you see as a missed opportunity? Like, that's something that you guys like do really well that other newsletter businesses should be really thinking about doing?
So I'm in the boards of 2 B2B SaaS companies, and I see like how hard it is for them to sell in terms of like having, SDRs and I don't know, account executives, and like you need the teams of salespeople to, go make money. And like, I just think I would never want to do that. That seems so hard. You need so many people. It's like such a grind. Like, why do that? So, I mean, my perspective is like, okay, if you have the resource of an email list, like just don't stop at like doing a cold outreach and like going and trying to sell it to those people. Think about what else you can do with them. Like, are there other people that these emails are valuable to that you could develop a partnership with, and really think about it more from a 3D perspective of like, my goal is as a business owner is to make money. And like my initial way to make money was this thing, but maybe there's ways B, C, and D to make money too. And like, if I'm not pursuing all of those, I'm kind of selling myself short.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. When we were at dinner last night, I asked you a question like this, and you immediately went into the tactics. And so, for example, I said like, well, what would you? I said, I think I asked something like along the lines of like, if you were just starting up, what would you tell me to do or whatever? And you just instantly started spouting. You were like, okay, well, I'd go on like ClickBank or one of these other affiliate programs. I'd test out a couple of their best, whatever their best programs are right now. And then as soon as I figure out something that's working, I'd go direct to the company. Like, it was just so tactical. And I think it's just, I know that's, again, no business relationship here. I just think that like selfishly, I think a lot more of our portfolio companies would do well if they would just like embrace urgency, or like tactics like this, and it's like, he's so obviously open about it.
Well, and I think like if you go back to something that Matt said, and we talk about things that we hammer into startups when we meet with them for office hours, the game doesn't change the further you get into it, because you just said, well, the reason why we're going to miss some of our Q1 goals is because we had this other effort over here, and this other effort was working. So we said, let's pour more time and money into making that thing succeed. That's literally grassroots what we're telling every founder. It's go find that next thing, and when it works, pour gasoline on it.
Yeah.
And here's a guy who's 17 years into creating his company doing that exact thing.
Yeah. I think that, I can't remember who said it, but the idea is that distribution is really the only moat of a business. It's how many people can you reach, and too many people, including some of the people that we talked to this week. They often get focused too much on like the product and the features, and like it can do this thing and this thing and this thing. It's like, well, that's great. Is anybody using it? And like the answer is probably not.
Yeah, are people paying you for it?
We're going to go into beta in a few months, and it's like, okay, even Google gave up on betas.
All right, so let's close, and we're gonna put Matt on the spot, and you can pick. So you can either pick this summer or next summer, because you and Don have both said that we're invited back, and I'm looking forward to coming back when I don't have to bring a very heavy jacket. So either this summer or next summer, what I'd like to know is, where do you think Startup Sioux Falls will be, and where do you think MarketBeat will be?
Ooh, MarketBeat is going to do at least $40 million in revenue this year. Fingers crossed. That's at least kind of my head goal. We did $4 million in January, so I think we can keep that going, or at least close to that. Like, going from 30 to 40 this year would be a big win, and kind
huge.
of 50 is my kind of 5-year goal. So if we can get there in 3, like, I'll be thrilled. So working hard on that, ramping up ad spend to do that, and like now we're at this game of like, okay, I need to spend $1 this month, and I will make that $1 back in 90 days, and anything after that is profit. So it's just like, how much money can I stomach doing this before I like throw up, to get to that 40 million number, and then 50 after that.
They don't teach you that in MBA school, huh?
No, it's really like just, all right, we're going to push on a gas pedal, see where we go, and like how fast can we go before like I either hit a wall or just like can't take it anymore. And like, I sent out a $300,000 like ACH last week for like one advertising channel. It's like, oh geez, that's a lot of money.
That'll make you throw up. It'll tighten the pucker.
So we're excited about that.
All right, so you're gonna go 30 to 40 for the company. And what do you think Startup Sioux Falls looks like?
I think we're going to see a lot of progress this year on getting back to that core of like helping tech startups. We'll have another tech cohort sometime this year. We will have some new sources of capital. There will hopefully be a homegrown capital fund too by the end of the year or early 25. So excited to get started working on that too.
Well, in the short time that we've been here, see, we landed at 3:00 yesterday. We'll be on a plane at 3:00 today.
24 hours on the ground.
24 hours on the ground. It's amazing what I've seen, and I can honestly say, not to put words in your mouth, but when I see all the housing construction around town, you talked about all the new buildings, and I see what's inside that building, I see a community that's ready to support entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And you had 4 types of donuts this morning.
Oh, I have my 4 food groups. Flyboy donuts, and I think as we noted off air, and we have to make sure that we include this so that there is a record of it. The official score after 5+ years on the road with you is Matt Paulson has bought me donuts once, and you've never bought me donuts.
I don't know if that's supposed to be a dig. I'm good. We're good at investing in stuff together and making some money.
I married you though. I mean, a little cholesterol this way wouldn't kill you.
Well, look, you've been giving me a hard time about my computer for years. I got a new one, and now you've stopped making fun of me. So maybe just sadistically, I just don't want to get a donut for you because I just need you to dog on me for this. I don't know. Maybe I just need to talk to my therapist.
If that's what helps.
Yeah.
If that's what helps drive you.
I do hope, by the way, that like people listening to this, like even if you never listen to another episode of ours, I think you should just follow his stuff because Matt just kind of gives it all away. And like I got nothing. Like I don't have a dog in the fight here, right? But the thing is, though, is that I feel like your Twitter account is sort of an email masterclass. And then, you tweeted last night, you're like, oh, I tricked Paul into coming. I'm like, no, I feel like I got a private masterclass on email, and it's stuff that you take for granted and you just give it away. And that's so fascinating to me.
We were at dinner last night and we're talking about, my little travel thing, the Slack community, and he just blurts out an idea, and I'm like, son of a, like, just like that. It was a trip. And for what it's worth, when I think about that, it's like the full circle moment, and we completely missed it, was we absolutely should have had an affiliate link for MarketBeat signups on the screen for the episode.
Actually, we had to kill our affiliate program for reasons.
But sorry, I know we got to wrap, but here's the thing. One of the things that's interesting about people like Matt is that like he says stuff that I apologize because you're sitting right here, but he says stuff in a way where it seems to me like he just takes it for granted. And then I listen to him like, oh, that's why he's doing this. So like, for example, one of the things he's done over the last 90 days is really picked up his public speaking. Like you've always been open. I feel like I've randomly emailed you over the years and you'll just instantly respond with like, good stuff. But particularly over the last 90 days, he's been like getting more public and tweeting and getting on podcasts and stuff. And yesterday, I don't know if you remember this, but you just out of the blue started talking about brand searches and how it helps SEO. Do you remember this part?
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's why he's doing it. Like, don't get me wrong, you're a good guy, obviously. But at the same time, like, you're a capitalist at heart. And the thing is, like, it's like, wait, why is all of a sudden he like talking on these podcasts? Well, one potential reason is because he just said, like, he thinks that more brand mentions through podcasts and social media get more searches for your brand on Google, and then that drives SEO. And I'm like, oh my God, that's it.
I don't know if you know this, but
he doesn't want the affiliate link. He wants you to Google MarketBeat.
Yes.
That's the key. That's the
part of
open
it.
secret.
And you're building a product, Beacons, that will literally help him catalog this.
I don't know who is on my ass this week. It's like everybody is on my ass about this thing.
I'm not on your ass. Well, the one thing I was on your ass about is that you can't tell time. But we did manage to land.
I did screw up the time zone on the flight. So.
Yeah, we did.
I did put the offer out there. I said, set me up the beacon alert for MarketBeat in my name and send me a Stripe subscription and I'll sign up. So you've got your first customer ready. I just need the buy button.
You'll have it within a week.
Excellent.
Oh, okay. So we're on the clock. It is Friday, February 16th. Ooh. And we even know what time it is, Matt and I.
It is 1:30 Central.
Yes. Yeah.
By the time this episode goes out.
Yep, by the time this episode goes out.
All right, it's good stuff.
We gotta pack our stuff and head for the plane. Matt, thank you for being an incredible host.
Yeah. And amazing what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are trying to get more people to come visit Sioux Falls. So if you're slightly more interesting than these guys, hit me up and we'd love to have you come visit.
The bar is low.
Yeah.
The bar is low.
I recommend May to September. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt'll make sure to serve you a drink.
We got the good whiskey, so.
I'll be in Vegas next week. When we press the record button, you'll be home?
I'll be home.
All right. And then Lubbock, Texas, I think, is next tour stop, huh?
Yeah. No,
Is that the next time you get on a plane?
No. I think Dana and I are doing a St. John trip, with.
Again?
Oh, man. We go there like every 2 months. St. John.
Is your blood alcohol level back down to 0 from the last trip?
Unclear.
Can you land in St. John, or do you
No,
have to
you
take a
gotta
boat
No.
from St.
St.
Thomas?
Thomas,
Okay.
yeah. And then you
Yeah.
can either we would take a helicopter or something over.
Yeah,
there.
we went to St. Thomas once and made the mistake of staying in St. Thomas.
Oh yeah, no, we just go to St. John. There's really nothing there. There's a Westin, and just stay there. And it's just, but it only works if you like doing nothing. Like we just love we know a guy with a boat. We just get the boat. We take it out. We
And
just
a large cooler.
and yeah. Anyway, St. John, and then I think we're gonna do a Disney trip, and then we're going to Lubbock, Texas.
Disney. Hey, there you go. You're doing an emergency Disney trip. I love it. You're
No,
following,
we plan stuff.
You're following in my
No,
footsteps.
you two are the guys that do emergency trips. You're like, you know what? I'll just go.
We are going to Orlando tomorrow, and I have
Yeah.
no plans for when we're going to be there other than where we're staying. So,
It'll work. It'll work itself out.
yes.
All right. Well, again, thank you for the time, Paul. I will see you remotely from Vegas in a week when we click the button again, and I will make sure to ask you if you've done your homework for Mr. Paulson.
I'm terrified and inspired.
Love it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Congrats.